Welcome to another edition of the In Search SEO podcast, where we paint the town red with search marketing insights. Today we have the nicest fellow in the entire SEO industry for you. Matthew Tenney of Glasses USA joins us to talk all things SEO audit, when and how to run the most efficient SEO audit possible. From among the piles of data, how to know what to focus on when doing an SEO audit, and how to best qualify the data you get back from your SEO audits. But first, we go into the May 2020 core update, its rollout, its impact, its size, its scope, it's everything. I am your host, Mordy Oberstein, and I am joined by the intransigent Sapir Carabello.
Hello, Mordy.
Hello, Sapir.
How are you doing?
Okay, kids are back in school, amazingly enough. Kids are back in school, all toward, different times. This one gets out at 12:30, that one gets out at 2 o'clock, that one. So it's a little bit, hectic and chaotic, but they're back. We have another 45 minutes to record this podcast before some of them come flying through the door and start screaming. I can already hear them screaming, because I live next door to the school. So when they're out in the yard, I hear them.
Oh, no.
I can never escape their screaming. It's all right.
It's all right, really?
It's all right. Nah, not really. But we're going to say it's all right. They're back. I like quiet. I was out a cup of coffee without having to run and change a diaper. This is great.
Wow, amazing. Good
amazing.
For you.
How about you? How's your life going?
Same old.
That's
Nothing's
it.
happening over
Nothing's
here.
happening. Nothing to see here. Oh, can I tell you?
Yeah?
I last week, I watched Korean baseball.
Korean baseball. Wow.
Korean baseball. Because in case you don't know, everybody, Sapir studied in Korea.
I don't care about sports.
But you spent a lot of time in South Korea, so I thought you would like to know that.
Still, I don't like sports. It's different.
But it's South Korean baseball. It was okay. It was like watching a minor league game, pitching in the mid to upper 80s. I saw one pitch go into the 90s. One guy, though, had a pretty decent breaking ball, good curveball, a lot of movement, sharp movement, late breaking. Not bad.
I don't care.
Really good movement on that curveball. It was nice. The interesting part was that
interesting part.
No, there is. There are no fans.
No, there isn't.
And instead of having fans, they had a recording of crowd noise going on in the background.
Oh, yeah, they do it a lot.
Yeah, because otherwise, the players are thinking, oh, wow, it's just weird. But that was interesting. So live baseball is back. If you like the Kia whatevers and the Samsung Tigers, Lions, or whatever the hell their names are. Awesome. Don't know who any of the players are. Can't pronounce any of their names, but it was good. It was baseball.
Good for you.
Yep.
Slowly getting into that Korean,
What are you tapping on? You're tapping on something. Tap, tap,
tap.
Oh,
sorry. I'm playing with my phone. I'm sorry.
You're on your phone while we're doing the podcast.
No, I'm not on my phone. I was just like...
We're spending too much time into this stuff. We don't have time for your phone. Baseball we have time for. Your phone we don't have time for. We've got a great show for you today. Do not forget we put out a new episode of the In Search SEO podcast each and every Tuesday. You can find it on the Rank Ranger blog. You can find it on Stitcher. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on SoundCloud. And of course, you should subscribe on iTunes. Also, it's wherever great podcasts are found. Okay, also... Since we're talking about audits, Rank Ranger has a slew of tools for all your SEO audits, whether it be content, site, page audits. We have the audit tools. Head over to rankranger.com, sign up for a 14-day free trial, and check out all of our page, site, content auditing tools for free.
Yeah.
So definitely do that. Great show today. Talk to a real, as my grandmother would call him, a real mensch. Matthew Tenney had a conversation with us about the finer points of SEO audits. We will get to that shortly. However, y'all know it just went down. I don't really need to say it, but I will. The May 2020 core update hit, and we are diving in. We are going data. So let's kick this off with the basic facts, just in case you don't know what just hit the SERP. Here's Sapir.
So, on May 4th, Google announced that they were releasing what was named the May 2020 Core Update.
Very original name as usual.
Right. By the next day, our rank risk index picked up elevated levels of rank fluctuations, recording a risk level of 87. By the 6th, fluctuations levels hit a whopping 116, and the rest is history.
So, by the way, very short rollout, 2 days, that's it. We'll get to that in a second. But the first thing we need to talk about, ton of uproar. Ooh, how could Google release an update during COVID-19? Chutzpah, or as my non-Jewish friends would say, chutzpah.
Oh, wow.
People were saying sites may not have their full teams available to deal with the drop-off because of the COVID-19 crisis and so forth. It's not fair that Google hit them now. But not sure how I feel about this. How do you feel,
What do you mean
Sapir?
you're not sure? It's a mess.
It's a mess. Okay, I was going to, how do you feel? You feel it's a mess, clear as day. On the one hand, yeah, I kind of get the point that you may not have your team available. It's a tumultuous time as it is. At the same time, pandemic or not, Google has to offer the best results to the user, perhaps more so during a pandemic. To be fair, it's a tight spot for Google to be in. So if you don't like it and you're really upset about it, try to understand where Google's coming from. If you're like, Google should definitely do this. Best results during the pandemic, very important. Try to understand where some people who may not have their full teams available are coming from. Everybody's got a fair point of view in this one from my perspective. That's what I'm saying. I'm not sure.
Oh,
Okay, so let's get into this. As Sapir mentioned, though maybe you didn't pick up on it because she wasn't explicit about it, the update was very slow to start. When we see, the normal level of rank fluctuations on the rank risk index is somewhere around 199 to 116, like we saw during the second day of the rollout. But the first day the update started to roll out, we only saw risk levels of 87. That's sort of what a normal update looks like, an unconfirmed update. In other words, what I'm trying to say without using too many numbers, the first day of the rollout looked very much pedestrian for a core algorithm update. The second day was insane. Just, insane. Rankings flying everywhere. Over here, there's rankings flying out the freaking window. And then it just stopped. 2-day rollout. Very quick. Like Google's like, hey, we know what we're doing here. We got this. Bam. 2 days. We're done. In and out. Interesting. Very interesting.
right.
Yeah. I thought maybe in the beginning, my initial thought, by the way, was like, okay, first day rollout could be, it's just a slow rollout. Second day will be crazy. But a good part of me thought, well, maybe Google's trying to take it easy. Maybe.
Oh no,
now
Mordy.
that pandemic is coming out or going on.
No, you thought really? Didn't we discuss it before that you shouldn't think?
Wait, do you hear that? That's the sound of nobody laughing at that joke.
Everyone laughed.
That's
sure you.
The sound of silence. I was thinking, and it turns out
inserting Korean crowd laughing noise.
What is that any different than a Canadian crowd laughing noise? Okay.
I don't know.
Guy had a good curveball. I will say that. Anyway, no, Google was not taking it easy. Day 2 hit, and it was frickin' Godzilla's attacking.
Very nice.
I was waiting for a response. I was waiting. Yes.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Godzilla is attacking. Day 2 comes in. Fluctuations go crazy. Monstrous levels of rank volatility, even for a core update. So I'm not sure exactly what that's all about yet. Still diving into a bit. So now, in other words, day 2 comes around. Now we're at the level of rank volatility that we're used to seeing for a core update. It was big.
How big? Not all core updates are equally impactful.
Ooh, good question. How big? As big as my... Not going to say it. As big as my inflated sense of self.
Oh, no!
You just got that.
I just got it.
That would have been over-exaggeration, if not a downright lie. Anyway, I can't believe I said that. In all seriousness, it was really big. Because the January 2020 core update, that was really big. That was up there with Medic. And this slightly edged out the overall volatility we saw during the January 2020 core update. So it's way up in the annuals of core update greatness. This thing was edging the January 2020 core update out from top to bottom. Right, top 3, top 5, top 10 results. May slightly edged out January across the board.
Interesting.
Yeah, the update was very odd. I found this update to be very odd.
How come? What did you discover this time, Sherlock?
My stepfather, I was growing up, I would say something like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. That was my childhood. Hey, that's a great idea. I was like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. Wonderful. Anyway, I was going to say, before you interrupted me with your question of how was it odd, I was going to say because one is the rollout was very slow. One, it was very slow, and two, it was very short. Although Medic, by the way, was also very short. However, what was very odd to me is that usually you see with the core update, the YMYL niches like health and finance, their volatility levels compared to other niches are noticeably different, noticeably higher, noticeably more rank volatility for YMYL niches. I think we all know this at this point. That's always part of the agenda, YMYL during the core updates, except here, that was not the case. Very much uniform volatility increases depending on not dependent on the niche. Uniform across all niches. That's not to say that some niches slightly edged out other niches, like finance was a little bit more volatile, relatively speaking, than the other niches, but comparing it to previous behavior during the core updates, this was a very, very uniform update, which is weird, because that's only happened I think it happened during the March 2019 update to an extent, not anything like the uniformity we're seeing here. Very interesting.
What's up with that, then?
I don't know. How the hell am I supposed to know that?
You know everything, right?
Yes, I know everything. Ask me anything. I will know the answer. True, not true, crap or not, I will answer you. I could speculate that with COVID-19 and how it's changed the web and how it's impacted content creation and what it means for user intent and user behavior, or what we expect to see for the entire web, that Google's up the ante for anything and everything. Like, it's not like you can't just talk about health and finance. Everything has changed. Google's got to change and hit everything the same way. That's just a thought. I'm really, honestly, I'm just running my mouth with that one. I have no idea if that's true, but it sounds good.
Okay.
But I'm going to run with it and drop it like it's truth, even though it might not be.
Okay, but you have to imagine that COVID does play a role here, right?
I don't know. I guess so. I mean, I would think so. I mean, let's take that back. Yes, definitely, it's part of it. I don't know if it has. It's a definitive quality of the update, or it really explains the update's trajectory. It's obviously a part of it because everyone's talking about it, and that's user behavior, and searching is all about it. So yeah, it's in there somewhere. I mean, the COVID-19 SERPs have been like in a tizzy in general. Like there've been a bunch of unconfirmed updates in April. The COVID-19 SERPs are all over the place, constantly changing. So it's hard to really see. Although I did see Google playing with local government sites.
What do you mean? What did you see?
So for COVID-19 SERPs, local government sites, like, local, COVID-19 cure, COVID-19 vaccine, all those like top level COVID-19 queries. So there are a lot of government sites. Like I'm talking about in the U.S. by the way. There are a lot of state sites. New York City. New York.gov, Florida.gov, because they all have information about the pandemic for their state on these sites. So Google's ranking them. So a bunch of those sites have been fluctuating in and out. Like I saw, I think Ohio went up and Florida went down and New York went down and this one went up and that state went up. Delaware didn't do anything. No one cares about Delaware. What a pissant little state. It's just pissed off everybody listening from Delaware. But yeah, that's what I saw.
What can it cost for that though?
I don't know. I mean, I thought maybe it was like certain states are now hotspots and certain states are cooling off a little bit. So I thought maybe that's why Google's changing it out, because this state's no longer really in the news, and now that one is. But if that's what's going on, then Google's like lagging behind maybe a week or two. Could be, and Google is lagging behind. I don't know. What I do know, this was really interesting. A lot of sites in the health niche that you would expect not to ever lose rankings did. Like the big fellows, the big guns, the SERP sheriffs lost rankings.
SERP sheriff?
Yeah, like keepers of the SERP, super authorities. Keepers of the SERP. What the hell am I smoking? Hitting the crack pipe again.
Right.
Hey, the kids are out of the house. I'll smoke whatever I want now.
Oh no.
Talking about sites like the CDC, Hopkins, I know it was a Hopkins or Harvard, like health.harvard.edu. I think it was health.harvard.edu. Bunch of other sites that you would not expect.
But whatever. So
Whatever.
what was your, investigation findings?
My investigation findings.
Yeah, Sherlock.
Sherlock. I don't know. I didn't really get too deep into it.
Oh, really?
What do you? The update? The update just rolled out like 3 days, like two working days.
Okay,
Give me a break.
What?
Holy mackerel! I've already put out tons of data, charts. You can check that. I've looked at these sites and those sites. You're like, yeah, what about to explain the whole thing to me? All right, Sherlock.
Okay.
I mean, it made no. Okay. What that does make sense to me because as COVID-19 came in, I did look at this. Come on, I have something to say. I've always got something to say. That is
Right.
not my weakness.
Oh my god.
You're laughing a lot. You also got the munchies?
No, I'm just in good
No?
mood.
Yeah, you want some potato chips?
No thanks.
Thinking paranoid thoughts? Anyway, it makes sense to see those big juggernauts of the health industry, the titans of health, the SERP sheriffs, lose a little bit of rankings because as COVID-19 came in, so those sites got a decent sized boost. Like Google boosted them. It makes a lot of sense, right? Whole world's going to hell. Tons of different health queries. Google's going to boost up those super authorities. But now, as maybe as the pandemic is waning just a bit in certain countries, or as Google's getting a better sense of things, or as new things are becoming relevant in terms of the pandemic, so Google's just pulling back on that boost, on that super focus on the super authorities, just a bit as it gets a better sense of things. I think. It's like I don't think it's like saying like, yeah, CDC, your site sucks. First off, I'm not saying they lost like major rankings. I'm saying they went down a little bit. Like their visibility got pulled back a tad, which I think is just a response to Google getting a better sense of things. That's all. By the way, since we're on the topic of sites, saw a really interesting one. This one I'm still working on. Vitamin Shop got hit. I think they sell online vitamins. What was interesting there was, it wasn't like they lost rankings for buy vitamins online. Like they're still ranking very well for that.
Okay.
Where they lost was like for things like related to like some of the more, I don't know what to call ancillary things they do, but like not tied into their like I'm going to call it exact identity or like the main thrust of their identity. Like weight gain powders or organic whatever health thing, whatever. Like vitamins are good. Like take like the weight gain stuff. Like they were. Google's picking sites, like picking like big guns like Amazon, and then it's like picking sites that have a very strong focus on weightlifting and like weight gain for weightlifting, like GNC. But sites like for those kind of queries, sites like I don't know, like Target, Walmart, and Vitamin Shop, they're ranking on page 2 and now page 3 even, because I think Google's saying like, hey, when we want to rank sites for this kind of stuff, we really want something niche, something with a micro focus. Something with very strong identity around this particular aspect of the health equation. Weight gain for weightlifting, whatever it is. So that's interesting to see. I got to pull out a little bit more, dive into a little bit more. But very interesting to see Google pull back on, like, it's happened before, like those keywords that are not really part of your main focus. But this is a very, very refined way of doing that. Like, yeah, if you have keywords that you're ranking for that really nothing to do with you, the core updates have hit those. But here, with Vitamin Shop, like weight gain powder for weightlifting, whatever the heck you want to call this stuff, it's part of its overall identity, but it's not part of the main thrust of its identity. So maybe Google is getting a little bit more specific in how it handles ranking you for keywords that are not part of your, staunchly related to your core. Still need to investigate that. It's a little bit anecdotal at this point. Oh, you want to ask me about winners and losers, and winners and losers lists? Do you?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Ask me. Who won? Who lost?
Who won? Who lost, Morty? Please tell us.
Who cares?
Oh, what
cares? I mean, yeah, it's nice to see. Nice to see those lists. You could pull out, like I know Lily Ray pulled out like 500 something domains. That's interesting. Like that I can use, maybe like see like, what sort of sites, what type of sites, pull some patterns there. But you're going to give me like 10 sites that won, 10 sites that lost. What am I going to do with that? All right, that's cool. Half the time the data's wrong anyway, just saying. Anyway, okay. With me dropping that bomb without explaining anything, we're moving on. Crazy stuff. I'll do more diving. I'm doing a post on it, so look for it on the Rank Ranger blog. Let's get to Matthew Tenney about doing site audits, doing it right, doing it good, doing it Brooklyn. Cut one. Welcome to another In Search SEO podcast interview session. Joining us today is a personal favorite of mine, a most gentle soul, one of the hidden gems of SEO, and today we are bringing him to the forefront. Please welcome the Director of SEO at GlassesUSA.com, Matthew Tenney. Welcome.
Thanks so much for the intro. Very nice. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you. So, I have to admit, like I'm still feeling guilty because before we were chatting, I have a really bad prescription. Like I'm blind as a bat, basically. And I order glasses online, but I order from Zenny. Are we still okay for we're still okay for the interview, right?
Yeah, I may have to cut it short, and we'll start again, and leave out that word Zenny and just go with.
But you should go to Glasses. I have ordered for them, by the way, and I was very happy. So
that's great.
Yes,
that's great. Good to know.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about site audits today, and there's like a ton to talk about. Just like a site audit, there's a ton to talk. There's a ton in the site audit. There's a ton to talk about site audits. But I want to make sure everybody's sort of on the same page in case you're a newbie in the SEO industry. So when we say site audit, what the hell are we talking about?
Sure. Yeah. I think there's a lot of different site audits, and today in the conversation, I think it's good to kind of focus on one. Obviously, we can talk about a few. There's on page, there's off page, there's technical, and I think I bring a lot of experience with the on page side, and obviously we know this is critical for having good content and getting rewarded both from users and Google. So in general, site audit, we're talking about looking at your entire site, looking at the health of it and different factors and measures, and checking out to see what needs to be fixed.
Yeah, and it's like a funny thing because people are so hyped up on whether it's a core algorithm or ranking factors or whatever it is, or links, of course. But like foundationally, your on-page SEO is what's gonna. I mean, Google has a certain budget, right? So it could look very holistically. It could use machine learning to analyze your site, or it could just look at your headers. It's like,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, once you know the foundation of SEO, then figuring out how to optimize it, like you said, this is the key.
Okay, so with that, when you decide to do a site audit, let's sort of get into your personal experience here. What's the deciding factor of saying, you know what, I think I'd like to sit down right now and spend the next 18 hours doing a site audit?
It's funny that you say even 18 hours because I've estimated, I used to work at a company that had over 60 SEOs in-house. So I have a lot of experience to estimate how long these things take. That's fairly accurate.
That's
18
really accurate?
hours is
Wow,
nice. Even just for an analysis. Look, ultimately it depends on how big the size is of the website. So the reason that people are going to do audits, it varies. We're talking about, okay, obviously you get hit or you have a loss of traffic. You need to go in and figure out what you need to fix. This is a great way to analyze where you're at in terms of your benchmarks, in terms of what's not working and what needs to be fixed. Another opportunity is when somebody comes in, let's say an agency, or somebody's not familiar with the website that they worked on in the past. It's a great way to learn the website. I mean, when you go in from A to Z, exactly what you said about budget. So you want to know basically what can Google find and how quality is the entire website that Google can find.
Right.
Those are kind of the two big ones that give you a starting point. And the last one is potentially, going through this experience and then building it into your routine as an SEO. You're going to gain experience from doing the site audit and potentially in the future break it up. Instead of doing a full site, do it in batches. One reason why I'm a huge proponent of full site audit is because I've had experience and I've even read where you really get evaluated on your entire website at some point enough pages are low quality, I like to give an analogy like it's poison. Basically, you're poisoning your entire website, and potentially you're putting your entire website at risk. We're talking about either some sort of manual action for low quality, thin content, what have you, or you get an algorithmic hit and you get to third page, fifth page, I don't know, whatever it is, but you see a big hit. So the routine we're talking about an opportunity to learn the website, and also for when you get hit.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the idea of like using a site audit is a great way to become like more intimate with your website and to understand like what's really happening. At a certain point, like, you know, there's many times I've looked at a site audit, you know, for our site, and I'm like, okay, there's all these issues. It's, you know, oh my God. But when you know the site, you start to realize, well, that's not really an issue. That page was there for this, and that's why this is like this, and that's why this is like that. Is it really possible when you first run that first site audit, can you really gain a pervasive understanding of the site, or do you have to do multiple audits, see how things are going, see what's what page is this, why was it created, what's it there for, how is it working, so that you can really take that like nuanced look at what a site audit can offer you?
So you're asking if you can really understand the site in depth and really understand what needs to be changed, things like that?
Off the bat, your first site audit, is that possible?
I do, so there needs to be an understanding of the business, of the vertical that you're in, of the content. Otherwise, the action items, they're going to be fairly on the surface and they're not going to get deep. I do believe once you get that, you establish an understanding of the business, like anything, you know, you get into, you need to know what obviously the message is and what the purpose is and what the goals are. Besides that, establish the benchmarks. Once you establish the benchmarks, then you can really have actionable items for that first site audit. And one tip that I do want to give is after one person goes through the audit, have somebody else review the audit. Sometimes it can be somebody that's very familiar with the website. They look at it every day. They get blinders. And if they do an audit, great. They can come up with actions, but it's really important to share that audit and get additional feedback from somebody that hasn't seen this website for a long time, or they're not as familiar with it, and you get kind of an unbiased view. So that way you can really kind of do some good checks and balances.
Yeah, that's a good point, because there's an advantage to having somebody who's very familiar with the site look at the audit, and then there's an advantage to having someone who has no clue what they're looking at. Yeah, that's a good point. You mentioned before the idea of batches. I was wondering, at what point do you start to say, you know what, okay, fine, I don't need to run the full audit on the site anymore. I can look at, I'll look at my links now. I'll look at, some content aspects or some content metrics now. How do you get to that point? How do you know when it's batch time?
Well, it's a good question. Most of the audits that I do, it's a full site audit, and then it becomes more of a routine. So after that first site, then I call it kind of more like a quick and dirty. So the batches that you can do are kind of like top performing pages. Check out those as lowest performing pages, break it up into numbers. The whole idea here is that in that first audit, likely you're going to identify useless pages, pages that don't bring value to users, pages that waste your budget or per se for Google, and that you need to get rid of. And the goal is, and hopefully what you're going to do is identify what's causing those pages and fix those, let's call them bad practices or unintended circumstances. Fix those for the future. So then you won't have those repeating, and then you'll understand what batches you should do. If you got hit manually or algorithmic, go in there, do a whole site. Don't do it in batches. Yes, it takes time. But like I said, there's enough pages that's going to hold down the weight of the site, I believe, that your entire website can get hit. Or at least you're going to identify patterns on those very low quality pages that you need to start fixing in the future and prevent, when you're ordering content or uploading or working on a new layout. So there are very big insights that you'll get, and moving forward that you build into. I hope that kind of answered your question about batches.
You mentioned algorithm updates. I'm wondering, just off the cuff, not to put you on the spot or anything, but have you ever been hit, one of your sites been hit by an update, done an audit and be like, oh, There's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the best ways to learn, sometimes you go through mistakes. So as somebody who's worked in companies that had purchased previous sites or purchased networks of sites, sometimes we inherited unhealthy assets. And when that's the case, and doing the audit, it was one of the best ways to identify, look, the quality is not good. We're talking about metrics like time on page, bounce rate, conversion rate. These are solid metrics that helped us evaluate the health of the site. Obviously, there are some metrics that we can get into a little bit more in this conversation, but those are kind of the highest quality ones that we were looking at that helped identify what to fix.
I do want to get into a deeper dive into the metrics in a second, but I'm just something you said kind of sparked my curiosity. You mentioned before, and I know your background a little bit. You work with sites where you were acquiring assets, and now you're working at Glasses USA, where I'm assuming you're not acquiring any assets. No. What does the site audit look like now?
It's a very good question. So, and I think people who work in the e-commerce industry, they can probably identify with this. There are different industries that there are a ton of products, and it's an opportunity to work with kind of the product team, the development team, operations, and kind of fine tune what do we want to communicate to Google, and what do we want from a user perspective. And the audit is going to be complex. I haven't done it yet. I do have it planned. and it's going to go in and clean up a lot of pages. It's going to remove pages. Obviously, my rule of thumb is it doesn't have traffic and it doesn't have backlinks, buy.
Right.
Or evaluate if it needs to be changed, but likelihood buy. Then pages that maybe they don't have organic potential, no search volume, users just, it's not a high intent search volume or search worthy page. But from a user perspective, when they get to the website and they go through their funnel of purchasing glasses, it may be very valuable for them. So in that case, then part of this audit, it's going to be a bit untraditional, that I'm going to go through a lot of pages and either no index or maybe adjust the canonical to a similar page. So it's a different type of audit because there are so many pages, so many legacy pages, so many products. So I'm excited to get into it, and there's a lot of cleanup, a lot of cleanup to do.
That's a lot.
And it's good.
Content.
Look, they until now the company's done great organically, and extra optimization is just going to take it a step further.
Right, and that could really be the difference between ranking 5 versus ranking 3, and that could be the difference between ranking above or below the fold.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Good luck to you. I don't envy you. So, that'll probably take more than 18 hours.
Yeah, I think so.
I can feel your dread like coming through the electric wires that are connecting our two computers together.
It's good. No, it's all good, and I just always look at it as it's just there's so much more potential, and it's exciting. So I'm really glad that I got this ahead of me.
Pro tip: like if you're out there and you're dreading the site audit, everybody is. So it's not just you.
Yeah. Look, just ultimately think about the experience that you get, and the result should be a big boost in money. So additional traffic, money, and the end of the day, that's what I'm here for. So that's what keeps me motivated.
Nice. Okay, so let's talk metrics. So you've run your site audit, and now you have, I don't know, like 4 bazillion different metrics to look at. How do you figure out where to start? Does it depend on the site, on where you're starting? Where do you go? Because literally, there's a million places you can start.
So it's a good question, and interesting that you brought up depending on the site. So ultimately, you know what your goals are and what makes the business tick. That should drive what the key metrics are. It's going to be different from business to business. Ultimately, we're talking about a combination of analytics, rankings, and let's say some technical tool, whatever you like, to kind of get some additional info. I like to get a whole story or almost a whole story of each page. And what I mean by that is putting all these metrics together and first and foremost, establishing a benchmark. So benchmark for, let's say, bounce rate and conversion. What you can do is build a formula that will flag problematic pages. So you establish your benchmarks and say, let's say my bounce rate is X and my conversion rate I want is this. And any page that has a higher bounce rate and a lower conversion rate, okay, the formula exists out there. You can do this through a BI team. You can do this manually in Excel. And boom, you got a flagged page. Right. So start with that. So I recommend, in a general sense, let's say conversion rate can also be different conversions. Conversion rate can be registration, conversion rate can be subscription, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a purchase. So first of all, make sure that you have that metric. Make sure that it's accurate. A tip that not everybody may be familiar with is bounce rate can be affected significantly by events or something that causes an interaction. So technically, you want to communicate to a developer or maybe your analyst, somebody to check out if events are being triggered as non-interaction. If it's non-interaction, then your bounce rate does not get affected. Basically, I want to recommend to have a bounce rate that reflects somebody going to the page and leaving. Potentially, so that's a starting point. A bounce rate can mean something different for other companies and businesses. From my experience, I like it to be somebody got to the page and then they leave right away without going to any other page. And in order to do that, you need to have clean analytics. So that's one problematic page. Beyond that, we're talking about what's the rank of, let's say, your main keyword for that page. Are you ranking at the top? Let's just say you're ranking at the top and you're getting no traffic. What does that tell you? I'll ask you, Mordy, if you were in that situation.
If I'm ranking really well and there's no traffic,
yeah,
it's not a target. It's not my target audience.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to probably optimize, either go after a different audience / keyword, or you need to scratch that idea, and that's a waste of your budget.
Right. Good for Google, by the way, for ranking you for that keyword.
Yeah, that's nice in Google, but ultimately,
nice
if you don't
metric.
get anything, what's...
That's what we're here for.
Yeah,
we're here
good.
to get better
one.
rankings. No, I thought
that's a good column to put in. Vanity metric, yes or no?
That's a definite vanity metric. I'm number one for this keyword. I'm number one for. I have a bunch of. I always do this to make myself feel better. I have when I update my blog tracking, I'll enter a really long tail keyword that I know I'll rank number one for.
And you're doing great. You feel
really good with that keyword.
Look, sometimes long tails bring very high intent, and that's great.
I think long tail, we can talk about that another time, because I think that...
Yeah, sure.
No, we can talk about it now also. We can talk about it now. It's fine. I was just digging into this.
It's a little bit off topic.
That's fine. It's cool. So, no, we'll do it. We'll do it live. What's his name? Bill O'Reilly. We'll do it live. There's no room half the time for those, unless you're high intent. In other words, let's say you do a query for Parkinson's. I don't have Parkinson's. I was just doing a bunch of medical research for SEO.
So morbid.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, or lung cancer death. That's right. I want to get really morbid. Better. Yeah, even more morbid.
Wow. Okay.
You have 5 or 6 sites are going to be WebMD, the Mayo Clinic, the Cleveland Clinic. Then you're going to have Harvard and Hopkins in there. Google loves Harvard and Hopkins as if it's the only 2 universities on the planet. And then you're going to have something the Cancer Society of America.org. And then maybe cancer.net. And have one non-organization regular website in there. There's no room unless you're going after some particular nuanced long tail keyword for Parkinson's.
It's true.
Yep. Okay,
it's true.
I'm ranting.
So metrics.
Right, sorry.
There's other metrics that you other metrics that you could put in. Make the room for these metrics.
Right, make room for metrics. That's a good slogan.
So
make room for metrics.
Make room for metrics.
That's a good bumper sticker.
Yeah. So internal linking, I think that's nice. You want to know if that page has internal links, and the reason for that, and the last metric is backlinks or referring domains, however you look at it. I think that, again, this tells almost the whole story, and it really helps with the action items. The content is good, bounce rate, conversion rate, time on page, those things are decent. And it just, it needs a little boost and some PR or getting some more exposure on the site through and giving it some backlink, internal
It needs
links.
some TLC. I'm curious, what are you looking for with the internal links?
So a few things. One, quantity, and then going in a little bit deeper of the actual words that are being used. From my experience, obviously you want to do what's good for the users, and more and more sites are using more exact, or I call them like money words linking to pages rather than natural. So that's kind of a little way to give a boost and optimize by adjusting the words that are being used. And obviously you don't want to go in and just adjust the specific words. You want to adjust the actual page and make the page valuable. So going in there and really giving some value besides just here's 2 words or 3 words that are linking. Let's help that out.
What's your approach here? Because you can do that. You can do like, I don't know, let's say you're linking to thinking of an example. I don't know, you're a car dealership and you're linking to a mechanic. And you can link to the word auto parts, or you can link to something a little bit more specific, or a little bit more, we'll call it long tail. Right? And there's been these 2 approaches in SEO for like forever. Right? Do you just go for that very exact keyword? Or do you, sort of give Google a little bit more context with a little bit of a longer anchor text?
So we know now that Google understands the context, and it can be it can be exact. I think ultimately, trying to, of course, I'll be politically correct and manipulate it in order to gain rankings. That's a no-no. And of course, many SEOs are not going to be public about it. So ultimately, you want to do what works for the users. So within the context of the site, what I kind of do to group these and understand kind of where you're at is to kind of group the long tails and the exact into money. And I say, this is money, and then natural and domain, that's the other half of it. And, it's important from an SEO just to kind of know where you're at. And ultimately, you can try different things, let's say on your own website. And instead of using the long tail, try the exact. And maybe it'll be good from a user and from a search engine perspective.
Cool. Nice. How often do you change text around just to get that anchor text right?
Not as often. It's more in these audits, let's say, or if I'm pushing a specific page and I realize that page has just been buried. There's a lot of potential and value to that page. Let's make sure that we give that page more exposure. So, we're talking about header menu, sidebar, or within other articles that get some nice traffic or PR. That's a good method to, make sure that page will get an additional boost.
So I have to ask like a very generic question at this point, and I'm sorry for doing it. It's just I have to do it.
It's fine.
What are the general mistakes that you see? It's like you have to ask this question to everybody you speak to, depending on the specific to the topic. I don't ask them about site audits every time, but what are the general mistakes you see people making when they're doing a site audit?
So first of all, stats. Like I said, you want accurate stats. That's one. 2 is general content where you are, let's say, being consistent with your site and your page. You're giving us you have maybe somebody in your company, or you can get an expert that's good with UX to really help make you see what you're doing right and wrong. In a general rule of thumb, it's a UX perspective, and then it's the actual quality of the content. So a lot of times from SEOs that take over sites, I don't know percentage of SEOs, but I notice a lot. They're very text heavy, and it's really not necessary. And users expect and react to something much better, where you're breaking up the text with graphical elements, whether it be images, video, listicles, bullet points, whatever it is. I notice a lot of times that's missing. Let's say headers. Headers are huge. It's great for breaking up the text. It's nice for users. Headers above, let's say, even a video. Let's say a video that you're hosting yourself. Doesn't necessarily have a title within it, like if you're hosting from a third party. So putting a header above a video, explaining what the user is about to see. Same idea if you have a table, like a comparison table, a header above the table. Images, sometimes the websites, they kind of have a general rule where their images are clickable, either converting or they're clickable to, opening up a bigger image. You want to be consistent. So a lot of times I notice inconsistencies from page to page, and that's a lot of times big insights that we see. Pages that are succeeding, as opposed to the pages that are not succeeding, a lot of times they're missing those other things, and maybe that's because they're legacy pages that the current SEO didn't work on those old pages, or they didn't have the right strategy in place, or A/B tests. You gain insights, and you only did those changes to your top pages, and those other neglected pages don't have that same treatment. I'm sure I'm missing out some patterns and other. But a big thing is just long text. We're not breaking it up. Good UX, making sure the pages have the internal links, and that's SEO for you.
No, but it's true. Like, I always like
welcome to SEO.
That's it's all you need to know. You're on your own. See you later.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done. Bye. No, but it's true. Like I always think about text creation from an educational perspective. So one of the things in teaching, which I used to be a teacher, was kids who have special needs, special education students. One of the, I forgot, I haven't taught in a long time, accommodations. One of the accommodations that you have for them is called chunking, where you do a little bit with them, do something else, come back to it. And it's imaging, or images is a way to do that. And I think there's a fly buzzing around my microphone. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It's been driving me crazy this entire interview. I can't even tell you. I want to kill that fly so bad. One of the things, and I do see this in some of the bigger SEO sites, is that the only use of images is for teaching purposes. So we'll have a graph in there, or we'll have a chart or whatever it is. But it's okay to throw an image in there just as an eye break. Like I have like 4,000 words. Holy crap, who's going to read this? So after every other heading, after every heading, throw an image in there. That relates obviously to the content. Don't just throw an image of your kids in there.
Think about the emotion that you get as well from that image. Yeah. It's very hard to measure, okay, this image made this sort of impact. But in general, images give off emotion. It tells a story, so it's important.
Yep. I spend way too much time picking out images. It's whatever. I have like a thing. I don't like crappy stock photo images.
That's your thing?
Yeah, and I'm like really picky about what I find. Eventually I give up because it's all crap, but...
You guys don't use stock?
We do. Okay. Because you're stuck. But I try to find something a little bit like offbeat, a little bit more creative. Not like your typical I don't know, I can't think of a good stock image. Like, a set of tools sitting there on the desk next to a computer. Like everyone's done that a million
you're
times.
A creative guy.
Right.
Maybe you need sometimes to give somebody take a stock image and give them a little guidance of what to change in it.
Right. That's what I should do. That's what I should do with my time. After I finish all my audits.
I think it will be less time for that potentially than looking for more and more stock images.
It's bad. It's really bad.
So,
I hate it.
There you go.
Okay. So thank you. I appreciate that. With that, we have a little game we play on this show. It's called Optimize It or Disavow It. If this is your first time listening, welcome. What it is I will give Matthew two options, and there'll be either two really good options, and he's stuck choosing one good option over another good option, and no one likes throwing away a good option, or two really bad options, and no one likes choosing one crappy option over another crappy option. So this is the Matthew Tenney version of Optimize It or Disavow It. It's a zero-sum world, Matthew. You can say it depends. I discourage it, but I accept it. It's okay. I understand.
I'll put my John Mueller cap on.
Right, it depends. Everything in SEO depends. It depends. My line is, it's not a nursing home. There are no depends here.
Did Matt Cutts used to say it depends?
I don't think so.
Interesting.
I don't keep stock of how many times they say it depends.
Yeah.
But John's an
But
it depends guy. Like Gary's not.
Yeah.
Gary's like, no, it's wrong, whatever. Even though like I don't know what you're talking about, it's just wrong. But John's good. John's very on target, even with it depends. No, but I like that about John because like you know he's thinking about it. You're getting a well thought out answer.
Yeah.
As opposed to like, shut up, don't bother me. It's your freaking job, Gary. That's what you're here for. Anyway, have to pick on the Googlers out there.
No comment.
No comment, right? I'm gonna get watch the next core update. We're gonna get slammed. Gary's sitting there pushing buttons.
I'll show him.
But I'm gonna push up John because John, I love you. Maybe John will have another button that'll put us back up. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So right. So your option is like this.
Okay.
You could do one or the other, either a technical audit or a content-based audit. Which one do you do?
So it depends.
Yeah.
In general, I would go with content. I mean, we know even Google publicized that the three most important SEO things: rank, brand, content, and links. So I would go with content. In general, most sites and Google and search engines can really handle a lot of tech issues, but at least have somebody with some technical knowledge just go through, make sure your robots TXT and your disavow canonicals, what have you.
You don't want to be blocking your crawler from everything.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure that's intact, because without that, spending any time on page doesn't matter for organic value, maybe for other marketing channels, but I would say let's change it. Really quick, short tech, just to make sure things are in place, and then go with the on page.
Okay. So that's definitive. That's not it depends. Like do the, make sure you're being crawled and that was good.
I circled back there to
you redacted your it depends.
To give a real
that's very brave
answer.
Of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It depends on this situation.
Right. But it doesn't, because you should just do the make sure you're not blocking crawlers and then go to content. So it doesn't.
No, I'm
it doesn't
talking
depend.
About me.
You
being brave. And
I see.
It depends. No.
It depends. That's always true. It depends how much money is involved.
No, of course not.
Of course not. Well, thank you for that. I do have to go kill the fly now.
Okay.
And I appreciate you adding that little. Yeah, I'm going to need it because I'm not good at killing flies.
Thanks so much.
Thank
I really
you anytime.
appreciate it.
This was great,
really
by the way.
This.
Awesome. Thanks.
Take care, Morty.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
And we are back to your regularly scheduled In Search SEO podcast. We should do a podcast like a fireside chat. I think Matthew would be good for that, like a fireside chat. We're sitting here with Matthew. We're having a nice fireside chat about SEO audits. Very calm guy. Not like me. He's a nice person.
Not like you at all. Mm-hmm.
Nice, calm, sincere. I'm sincere. Genuine. All the things I aspire to be once a year, Yom Kippur. Anyway. But that's a day of repentance for Jews, by the way. Which is like the worst day in the world for me. Anyway. Let's do some news. Big news out there. Sapir, could you please hit it with the news?
Google is running a new search suggestion that offers a search suggestion based off your recent search history.
Yeah, right? So you you search for this? Maybe you should also search for this product. And we're pulling it right out of your search history. Really interesting.
That's exactly it. Thank you, Morty.
Yep. I will talk more about this on the bonus content for this podcast.
Oh,
Deep Thoughts on Twitter. By the way, Deep Thought, Twitter, unique bonus content for the podcast on the Twitter page, InSearch_SEO. Check it out.
Thank you, Morty.
You're welcome.
Let's move on.
Let us move on.
The www version of LinkedIn dropped out of Google's index for a bit. This has nothing to do with Google, but with something on LinkedIn's side.
Yeah, and it came back. It was gone very shortly. Barry Schwartz had a whole thing, why it happened, what happened. I totally forget what he said. I'm going blank, so Go look it up on Barry's site, seroundtable.com.
Nice shout out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Search Console now shows errors and performance metrics for the special announcement markup.
Oh, and Rank Ranger now supports special announcement markup code creation within its schema markup generator. That wasn't a comment on the article. I'm just plugging Rank Ranger.
That was good.
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't even prepare that. Like, I should totally do that right now. That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Moving on. Google says it has gotten more local with the news around COVID-19, saying it has moved to show more local news sources. Google also said news results for its top stories carousel for COVID-19 queries need not to be AMP.
Yeah, need not be. And bet your balls I'm talking about that on a deep thought on the Twitter page for the podcast, because that's nuts to me. Very upset about this. But good, by the way, that local news is getting more coverage within Google's top stories carousel.
Mm-hmm.
So good for that.
Good for that.
AMP thing making me nuts. Check that out on Twitter at some point this week. It's coming out.
Thank you, Mordy.
So annoying and stupid. It's ridiculous.
Lastly, Google has a new toy for product marketers. The Rising Retail Categories tool tells you which products are getting hotter and more popular.
Wow, what a coincidence. What a freaking coincidence that Google all of a sudden lets out this very unique, unprecedented insights tool where it has never done this before to this extent or anywhere near it. As soon as it launched free product listings within Google Shopping. So check that out. What a coincidence. Amazing.
Amazing.
Oh, we didn't talk about the May 2020 core update. In case you're tuning
we
in.
Covered it.
Okay.
Okay.
In case you're just tuning in now, like you just jumped to the news section of this podcast, we covered it like 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, 40 minutes ago, whatever it is. So go rewind a bit. Anyway, thank you for the news, Sapir. Always insightful, always pleasant. Yes.
I know.
Which means on to our next segment. Smooth transition. Smooth pivot. It's the fun.
Very smooth.
In search. SEO send-off question. So we had this question from last week. We didn't ask. I don't remember why. Totally blanked that we even had this question.
Because I gave that question, but I didn't see that you already had another question, so we just went with your question.
No one cares. No one's been following what we're talking about.
Even though mine was better.
We just lost 5 listeners as you kept talking.
Okay.
I'm sorry. That was mean.
I'm just gonna shut up from now.
No. I didn't mean it like that. Just my personality is being a jackass.
I'm kidding. I know you're a jerk.
Okay.
So this week, you want to know what the fun send-off question is?
Yeah, that's why we're doing this.
Okay. This week we're asking, if Google had a fan base, what would they be called?
By the way, say if Google had a fan base, what would they be called? That's the question. I had no idea. I thought you meant like sports fan bases sometimes have names, and that's not what you meant, or that's not what you mean, right?
No, I think also like sports fan clubs have names. Like I don't really know. Like for example, it's usually like pop stars.
Right.
Like
see, I saw that. Yeah. See, I Googled this.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. Now I know why she asked this. It's all this like pop people.
But it's not just
Taylor
that.
Swift.
Like, did you know that Jaws have like a fan base and they're called what were they called? Fin Addicts.
Oh, that's cool.
That's cool.
That's cool.
See, it's not just like
I mean, there's Deadheads. That's like the most musical acts. Deadheads.
But it's not just musical acts.
You don't wait.
Movies and TV shows.
Don't gloss over it. What's a Deadhead?
Deadhead?
Yeah, Deadhead.
Is it a band?
No, if you're a Grateful Dead fan, you're a Deadhead.
Oh my god!
How do you not know that? It's like
why would I know that?
It's such a classic. It's such a classic. It's like, oh, who's Mozart? Deadheads. Equal in my mind in terms of what you should know. Okay, I'm sorry. Why don't you take it away with your answer?
Okay. I think the fan base is gonna be Google Serpies.
Oh, Serpies. That's creative.
Yeah, because it reminds me of herpes.
Reminds you of herpes? Why? Have you had herpes before? That this reminds you of it?
I would think.
Answer the
people
question.
had, like, fans.
Answer the question.
Wait, no. If people had fans, they would be like obnoxious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they'd be SEO people.
Right.
Right. You would ask a dumb question on Twitter, and they would eat you and spit you out, and flush
It
you.
kind of makes sense. Herpes.
Herpes. Have you had herpes that reminds you? You said it reminds you of herpes.
No, it's because it rhymes.
Oh, because it rhymes. Okay, not because you've had herpes.
No, I never.
And
had herpes.
this reminds you of herpes. 'Cause that's very personal information
Only
to reveal on the
because it
podcast.
rhymes. Can you find another word that rhymes with Slurpees other than herpes?
Slurpees. Done. Boom. Booyakasha. Have a Slurpee.
Okay, whatever. What's your answer?
Being that the only... See, I've thought about this from a purely sports point of view.
Yeah.
And there's very few, teams that have, names for their fans. However, the best NFL football team does. The Steelers. Their fans are called Steeler Nation.
Oh, really?
Yes. Which I am very much a part of.
Okay.
Steeler Nation, just borrowing that, being totally lazy, and is going to call it Google Nation.
Oh my god, you're so lame.
Yep. Steeler Nation,
Should've
Google
known.
Nation. Because Google's borrowing authority from the Steelers. Anyway. That'll do it for us. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the InSearch SEO Podcast. Don't forget, next Tuesday is another episode of the InSearch SEO Podcast. Tune in, check it out, share it, whatever. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget, it's been in search, because we're all in search of something. Toodaloo. Toodaloo.
Something.